Two movies, one span of time, both dealing with kind of the spectrum of sexuality. In A Dangerous Mind, you play Carl Jung, who is highly repressed.
Dangerous Method.
What? Method?
Dangerous Method.
Dangerous
Mind.
Wait, in
Michelle
Dangerous
Pfeiffer
Mind,
in
you
it.
played, yes, you taught a class of children. No, Dangerous Method. You're playing Carl Jung, highly repressed. And in Shame, someone who's kind of unearthing carnality and unleashing this addiction. What was it like approaching both roles? Do you have a similar process in kind of tackling that?
Yeah, usually the process is pretty much the same, which means just spending a lot of time with the script. The story that we're trying to tell in like whatever, an hour and a half or in 100 pages, whatever it may be.
Sure.
And then, the main differences sort of outside of that would be with Jung, I had a lot of information. There was a biography there and ready and sort of detailed. Whereas with Brandon, I had to go away and sort of, develop that a biography from the information in the story. And then, you just sort of talk with, in Dangerous Method, talk with David, and in the case of Shame, talk with Steve, and make sure you're all on the same sort of page.
I spoke to Keira Knightley about the movie, and she mentioned that there weren't a whole lot of rehearsal leading up to the movie, but rather maybe like a night of drinking martinis, and that's how you get into the get ready to go into these scenes together. What was it like developing that with her?
Well, it's sort of just to make sure that everybody is comfortable and and everyone knows exactly sort of where the boundaries are with something like that. But Keira's a great sport, so it wasn't a problem. Yeah, maybe sort of a vodka sort of martini to take the edge off of things. Never a bad thing.
Never a bad thing. And can you talk about working with these two directors? You have Cronenberg and then Steve McQueen, who you've worked with twice now, and perhaps going on to future collaborations. What is their process like, and how do they differ in approaching the films?
Well, we did rehearsals with Shame. We did rehearsals. I mean, we also had to film Shame in 25 days. We had more of a luxury on Dangerous Method in terms of time to film. So we did do rehearsals on Shame. David doesn't like to do rehearsals. Also, David would film very often sections of the piece. So he's editing as he goes along. So if we're doing a wide shot, he will perhaps only do 30 seconds in the top end of the wide shot, maybe 30 seconds in the back end, and then for the sort of mid shot or whatever, we'll sort of pick it up and do it in sort of pieces. I always think of David as kind of like an engineer. He's very precise, hyper intelligent, and very collaborative. Steve is very collaborative, more sort of discovering things perhaps off the hoof and off the cuff rather, as things are happening. And we do a rehearsal period, and through that rehearsal period we sort of workshopped the script as well as the characters, and it's also, I guess, the link between the two of them. And they're both very collaborative people. You have an input as much as anybody else, as much as you want to have an input.
Sure. And in Shame, kind of getting into this mind of this addict, essentially, what kind of research did you do? I mean, how did you encapsulate this guy or find him?
I had the good fortune of getting to meet somebody, one man in particular, who really sort of has exactly the same problems that Brandon has in terms of sort of dealing with the sort of intimacy commitments in a relationship. And just by getting him to tell me stories, it was very helpful to get an insight into that condition and really sort of realize just how devastating it is as an addiction. Because if you look at the other addictions, like perhaps with the exception of food addiction, sex is part of most of our lives. It's integral into sort of our being in terms of sort of survival on its own. So when that becomes an unhealthy, when you start developing an unhealthy relationship with that, then how do you negotiate it in the future? So it's a very interesting affliction in that regard.